Hola mis estudiantes. Today we are going to be talking about affirmative commands, or los mandatos informales afirmativos. So these are the commands when we tell someone to do something. But before we get too deep into our content, I quickly want to show you your notes. We're really going to be focusing on this left side today, but you're going to fill out the top two sections of los afirmativos y los negativos. And so if you have any questions, make sure that you ask, but I'll make sure that I show you that again. So we have to talk about, when do we use commands? And I think we use commands a lot in English and we don't even realize that we're using commands. So we use commands when we're telling someone to do something. But I think sometimes when we think of the word command, it's like demanding, but that's not necessarily the case. So let's look at some examples. So be careful, have a good weekend, take out your homework. I use commands all of the time in class because I'm giving you guys instructions. Oftentimes when you get a booklet for like directions or how to put something together in Spanish, they will often be in command form. So informal commands are used when talking to someone we would address in the tú form. Alright, and then we've got a different set of forms for like usted and ustedes, but we're not going to worry about that today. Today we're just going to be focusing on the tú form. So here's some examples in which we would use informal commands. Talking to friends, maybe talking to a younger sibling, talking to a teacher, talking to his or her student. Okay, so we've got two types of commands. Now this is where you're going to fill out the first box. We've got affirmative commands and negative commands, alright? So affirmative commands, that's when you're telling someone to do something. It's affirmative. So examples, close the window, set the table. Versus some negative commands that's when you're telling someone not to do something, obviously. Don't close the door, don't go to the store, don't rhyme obnoxiously. Alright, but the reason why that we are focusing on just affirmative commands today is because they are not formed the same way. So let's get our bearings straight with our affirmative commands and then we'll move over to our negatives. So when we're forming our affirmative commands, very easy. We're just using that el, ella, and usted conjugation, or that el, ella conjugation in the present tense. So it's that bottom left-hand box. Sometimes we refer to that as the third person singular box. Alright. Also, if you'll notice, since we're using that conjugation, we would also identify and we would use stem changers. So you might want to add that somewhere on the notes that you will use verbs that have a stem change. You will identify their stem change. So let's look at some just examples of some regular AR, ER, and IR verbs. So for example, lavar we know means to wash. So that third person singular conjugation is lava los platos. Wash the dishes. Barrer means to sweep, so that LA in usted conjugation is barre. So our affirmative command is barre el suelo. And then abrir, to open, our third person singular is abre la puerta. Alright, notice that our commands do not use our subject pronouns. We don't need a to when using commands. Don't need it, because you're always going to be addressing someone. Alright, of course, what would Spanish class be without some irregulars? So we have 8 irregular commands that you just have to memorize, and I've got a way to help you with that here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But here's our list of 8 irregulars. Decir, di, hacer, haz, ir, ve, poner, pon, salir, sal, ser, se, tener, ten, venir, ven. And like I said, you'll probably just have to memorize those. The biggest thing is also that's going to be important is that you know what those verbs mean. So if I say sal, what does that mean in English? If I say pon, what does that mean? Alright, here's a way to help you remember them. Ven, di, sol. Here's our little saying. So notice, ven, di, sal, haz, ten, ve, pon, se. Notice those are our 8 irregulars, and it comes out to this sentence. Ven, di, sol, haz, 10 pepons. Hey? Got it? So that's a way to memorize them. So if I say, hey, it's a ven, di, sol, then you'll know what that means. Got it? So now let's go ahead and flip over the back side of your notes. And you're going to be doing some practice. So I want you to to write down the commands to tell your younger sibling to do the following chores. So go ahead and hit pause, please, and let's see how you do. All right, here we go. Let's check our answers. Planchar la ropa would be plancha la ropa. Poner la mesa. Remember, poner is one of our regulars. Pon la mesa. Ir a la tienda. Ve a la tienda. And cortar el césped. Corta el césped. Alright. Now, you guys just got a little bit of practice today in your notes. We're going to be working with these a lot in class. Please make sure that you jot down any questions that you may have, and you ask those when we come into class. Gracias. Bye. Adios.